Hello and welcome. This is Enlightened Connections, a space where unseen threads are illuminated between people and spirit, between animals and their humans, and between the everyday and the extraordinary. I'm your host, Lisa Aston Michael, medium, healer, and animal communicator. And I invite you each week to join me as I share conversations and practices that bring light, healing, and connection into your world. Welcome, everybody, and thank you once again for tuning into Enlightened Connections. My special guest today is Nicole Adey, and Nicole's a women's transition coach and transformation specialist. She's a certified holistic life coach and a mind-body practitioner who supports midlife women who feel stuck in survival mode after major life transitions such as burnout, divorce, illness, loss, or identity shifts. And she helps them rebuild confidence, boundaries, and self-worth in practical, sustainable ways. I love that. Before founding A Change of Seasons, Nicole spent over 25 years in senior corporate leadership, shaping her grounded, results-focused approach to change. Her work is also deeply personal. She's navigated burnout, divorce, single motherhood, and breast cancer diagnosis at 46. So she coaches not just from training, but from lived experience. And blending evidence-informed tools with mind, body, and nervous system support, including her seasonal model of transformation and personal energy mapping method, Nicole helps women reclaim their energy, rebuild self-trust, and step into a life that feels steady, meaningful, and truly their own. Welcome, Nicole.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Jen, as I was reading all of that, I thought, boy, you've arrived at the right time in humanity, haven't you? What a change we are going through from the very heavy Capricorn-based male yang energy to the female moving into this beautiful female energy and this lightness. It doesn't mean you have to be a woman, but we've arrived. This beautiful feminine energy has arrived. And I haven't even gotten to my first question yet, and I'm already throwing that at you. But, you work with midlife women who feel kind of stuck in a survival mode after major life transitions. So what does survival mode actually look like in this stage of life? And why do so many women find themselves there?
Yeah, good question. Survival mode is, I suppose, a couple of things when you find yourself on autopilot. So you get up, set, repeat. It's also high functioning burnout. A lot of women don't realize they just do because we're so good at just pushing through, being that nurturer, being the person that's always going to fix things and have things organized and takes on that role of organizer and puts their needs last. So survival mode is really just getting caught into that autopilot where you're not really present, you're not connected, you're really just going through the motions and living day to day, and also just not feeling that you have the right to have any desires or wants or needs. You feel that you're now serving others, which couldn't be more further from the truth.
Yeah. Do you find that this happens? Is it something that happens because it's a long road to lead up to it? As children, especially our generation, we're kind of raised to be the woman, raised to be the cook and the chief bottle washer and the baby thing and the nurse and the psychologist and the support system, and in some cases the mother to our husbands as well. Do you feel that it's like that long road lead up that causes the burnout?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a very early age, women don't have the self-trust, self-confidence, the self-worth that, when you think about when you're younger, over time, it could be just a story that you've heard or someone's said something to you. And I think women in general, we do hold it a little bit more personally and closer. And that's where you get the people pleasing. or the high achieving and the perfectionism, and I know for myself, I sort of think back, and I think a lot of it comes from my relationship with my dad, and always feeling that I wanted to impress him, and, being the eldest daughter as well at that time, women were having, so many more opportunities, being able to go to university and study and, have careers. It wasn't expected that they were going to just have children, get married, have children. It was have careers. So you felt, I think, underlying subconscious pressure, if you like, to take or make the most of these opportunities that women in the past had not been given as well. So I feel like there is a generation of women that sort of took that on, but then they were sort of in the middle because they also wanted the family and they also wanted to have the children, but no one had really carved out what that looked like yet. So women tried to do everything, and as a result, often burnt themselves out. And, I think as you said earlier, the feminine power that's coming through now, we're actually starting to understand how this works and how we can make this work for us. And the beautiful men in our lives, or the masculine, are starting to see that too. And not see it as a threat, but actually something that is complementary. And I think that's what we're seeing, the shift. Well, certainly I'm seeing that shift with the women and men I work with. So,
do you find that women function better, differently, with a support network of women around them? Like I've noticed with all this sort of, it's a bit off topic, but with all this sort of Jeffrey Epstein stuff, the women are coming out and it just takes one to speak and another one will speak and another will speak. And you don't really see that with the male side of energetically. You don't see that with men so much, but or the male side of it. But do you find that there's kind of a shifting support for women that was kind of hidden or buried before, or we just didn't say anything, we just didn't want to speak because we didn't feel we had that support out there? Are you finding that's changing at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that women are becoming more vulnerable and are feeling okay to be vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable, other people then open up as well. And, I know myself, I used to keep it all within, but the more I talk about what I'm experiencing or I'm feeling, women are like, oh, I'm feeling that too. They feel comfortable to share their vulnerabilities, their emotions, their feelings as well. So I feel it's just as you said, I feel that we're giving ourselves permission to be vulnerable, and we feel that there is more of a safety net around us, that women are there, and also men, to recognize and support you through what you're going through. So it just takes one or two, and then it's just that snowball, just honesty, compassion. If you lead with those beautiful emotions, then you're going to get that back so much more.
I think as women too, also there's the guilt that comes with perhaps being in an abusive situation and not being able to get out, and people sort of, oh, why don't you just leave, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of that, and that shame and guilt that women have carried for a long time too, because they've not been in that even relationship or dominant situation in a relationship and have just copped it and shut up about it, because if you speak up, you're the one that might not get the support on that. So we've carried an awful lot for a very long time, haven't we?
Absolutely.
I think.
Absolutely. And I feel, to your point, a lot of women, certainly the women that I've worked with, and I know from my own experience as well, but they often stay in situations because of the children, or financially they don't feel, because they've always put themselves last, they may not have got a financial egg, if you like, to be able to leave. I think women are much more conscious now of what they can achieve and what they deserve. And you're seeing that confidence, you're seeing that empowerment around. And, it's really beautiful to see, actually. And like you said before, it just takes one or two, and there's encouraging each other and supporting. And when people feel good, they want to share that. And, I think that that's what we're seeing a lot more of. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to feel and experience what you're feeling.
Yeah. And, the other thing that we carry is that we were raised to compete with each other. Women were raised, you look at magazines and things like that, and it's, who's the prettiest and what makeup have you got, and she's slim and she's, we were really raised. I remember reading a comment somewhere that women dress for other women. They don't dress for men. They dress for women. And I thought, that's so true, because men don't notice much towards the best of times. But, I've got do you notice anything different about me? Not really. And you've just had your hair cut and dyed red, It's like, hello.
Yes.
But we notice every little nook and cranny. Oh, she's done this, or she's had a hip, or she's got these eyelashes, or whatever it is. So it's hard, because we've gone through this life not only keeping ourselves quiet, but also judging ourselves to this ridiculously massive degree. And I've noticed now, I don't know if you have, but I've noticed that women are kind of just not doing that so much anymore, less makeup. And you know what I'm saying here? It's like, it's okay to be us. It's okay to be who you are now. I love that. I think that's that time that we're in. I look at what you've been doing in sort of over the last 25 years. You've been in senior corporate leadership. That's a big issue. That's a big thing, I think. And then you created a change of seasons. So I'm really curious about that. And I want you to tell me more about that. But how did that corporate experience kind of shape the practical results focused approach that you now bring to personal transformation for women?
Yeah. So I was managing teams for a long time, and I could definitely see the difference between the men and the women in my teams, and the juggle and the struggle that they had. They were the ones that were racing home to pick up the kids from childcare, and, I've got to do the dinner, and, all those types of things, picking up all the responsibilities. And also just from a performance management perspective, they were never the ones that put their hands up for promotions or pay rises, so there was that very big imbalance. And so I used to coach, mentor the women in my teams, or not even just my teams, in other teams as well, obviously, encourage them to go for new roles or positions or promotions, or ask for a pay rise, or, just back themselves with decisions. I think women can be just terrible overthinkers, ruminating, because they don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to do the wrong thing. They don't want to let other people down. It's that people pleasing coming through. And as a result, you tend to, overthink and overthink everything, decisions. And you've got so much invisible mental load going on as well, because you're thinking, what time I've got to get the kids? Oh, I've got to get so-and-so to sports practice tonight, or what's for dinner? Did I take the sausages out the freezer? Whatever it is, you're the one that's always thinking. So I witnessed that throughout my corporate life, and also the expectations. It was very tricky, being a single mum. I had a role that required a lot of travel and late night calls. And it just also made me realize that not just single women, but, but single women are very disadvantaged in senior corporate roles unless they've got that support network around them. And, I was lucky I did have that support network around, but I did see a lot of women not go for senior roles because they just couldn't manage to travel. They didn't have that backup. They took on that parent role, and their father of their children was probably more absent, for example. So anyway, so I then got to a stage where I was like, right, I just want to spend some more time with my kids, and I wasn't able to juggle the travel and everything anymore. So I took a career break, and it was during that career break where I sort of started ticking boxes, let's go and get the tests and and I had a mammogram, and it was such a random thing. I had no symptoms. I had no family history. It was literally, I'd read this magazine, Chemist Warehouse magazine, and it said, did you know 40 to 50-year-old women can get free mammograms? And I didn't know that. I thought you had to be over 50. So I was like, wow, okay, that's another thing I can tick off while I've got this time on my hands. And it came back positive that I had cancer, and it just threw me. So that was sort of the turning point where I started working with a somatic healer, and I started really looking into holistic medicines, which got me onto studying holistic coaching and practitioner work and mind-body practitioner, and really understanding the connection between the mind and body, and how the years and years of stress and overthinking and holding the emotions and being that people pleaser had contributed to my cancer diagnosis. And it was such an eye-opener for me that I now am so passionate about teaching other women about the dangers of survival mode and stress, and not just mentally, but physically, the physiological impact it has on your body. And so that's sort of what formed a change of seasons. That's what led to a change of seasons, which is now my transition and transformation coaching for women. And, especially when I've really focused on women that are going through challenges or setbacks such as divorce and loss, because you just have an identity shift and you have this vision of what you thought your life was going to look like, and the rug is literally pulled beneath your feet, and it can take months or years. And some women just don't ever get out of that rut. They just feel very depleted and overwhelmed and just emotionally exhausted. And from my own experience, I know that change is possible. I know that feeling, but I do know that change is possible. So that's really my message to everyone, is it may just be the smallest little step forward, but change is possible. And you've just got to believe that it's possible. But there's so much waiting for you on the other side. So.
Yeah, I want to delve a little bit more into what's involved in a change of seasons. But as you were speaking there, Nicole, I was thinking about my first marriage, my trial marriage, I call it, my tester. And I went ahead with it because all these people were there at the wedding, right? And I thought, I can't let them down, people pleasing, right? I look back at it and I think, why on God's green planet did I wait 4 years? What was going on with me that I did this to myself? And I don't know whether it's a woman-only thing, or do men do that too, but I don't know if they have that failure of marriage or failure of as a wife, or, it's an
look, I think you're right. And I have spoken to men about that, and a lot of men do stay as well because they don't want to let their partner down, and I have experienced that before. So, but I definitely feel that women more so don't want to let other people down. They don't want to fail. They have this notion that things might get better. And sometimes it's just easier to stay in what you know. It's easier because, it's just like a self-confidence to sort of think, you know what, I'm going to be okay. Sometimes it's easier just to keep rolling, and that's that autopilot that you just keep going because it's easier. Yeah.
And starting a new life, the whole thought of where am I going to live? How am I going to do that? Where am I going to get the money to move? Do I need to leave my job? All of this comes into play because we've created this nest for ourselves, haven't we? Haven't we? Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about a change of seasons. Yeah.
Well, when I was doing my somatic work and holistic work, we started with shedding and letting go. And, as I went through the process, my own transformation, and it's a daily thing, and it will be for the rest of my life, which I love and I'm excited about, learning more about myself. But it really reminded me of the seasons of the year. So autumn, the trees, the plants, they shed, they have to let go. They have to let it go. And it's all about awareness, self-awareness. That's really the foundation of the work I do, is starting with that self-awareness piece and acknowledging that something's holding you back. Just that got to let things go. Old stories, old narratives, the conditioning, the thoughts, the negative self-talk. We've got to let it go. We've got to shed that layer of ourselves that no longer belongs to us. It doesn't fit anymore. It's like an old bit of clothing, doesn't fit. You've got to get rid of it. And then we move into winter, which is all about introspection and reflection and restoration. So just rest, restoration, and reflecting, and then preparing ourselves for spring, which is all about new starts, planting the seeds. And that's where we sort of set goals in my programs, where we set the goals and intentions of what we want going forward. But you can't get to that point without going through the letting go and that deep reflection piece. And that's where I myself, and I feel a lot of women, they go, oh, we're just going to set some goals and, it's a new year. But if you haven't gone through that process first of shedding, letting go, being aware of what's holding you back, the thoughts, the negative self-talk, the conditioning. So many women I work with, and so me, I wasn't even aware of the conditioning and the stories and the patterns that were just on repeat. And it's not until you stop and go, whoa, 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 none of that is true. None of that is true, but you keep telling yourself that. And to release that is so amazing to see women go, oh my goodness, I don't have to believe this thought or story anymore. This is a story that happened when I was 15 or 16, that doesn't belong in my life anymore. So, and then we move to summer, which is a really, a lot of people go, I'm just going to plant seeds, set goals. Summer's really critical because it's all about integration and celebration, because you can set goals, but unless you integrate and share your new self and feel comfortable to share who you are, really tricky to honor your goals and desires. So it's about integrating. How do you integrate that? Because you are different, and that's scary. That you may need to shed some friendships that are not serving you. You may even need to shed a relationship. You may need to look at a new career. And that's all part of the integration piece. And just by working with a coach or a support person, it's just giving you that guidance, but also that support and encouragement along the way. It's just having that beautiful safety net, like you said, just having that safety net around you. And so summer is all about integration. So that's it. And also just to remind women, it's a change of seasons. You're just going through a change of seasons. Our growth isn't linear. You're going to go through different seasons in life, and that's okay. Just the environment. We all go through different seasons, but things will be okay. The new season will come, and then it will bring new opportunities. So, yeah, that's sort of what got me onto a change of seasons. The program, the Thrive Beyond program, the 12-week program is every 3 weeks is a new season, and we sort of can't get to that stage without completing the first stages.
So do your clients, students, or however you term them, do they journal through this? Is that a part of their experience? I would think that the hardest, it's kind of like coming out of a cocoon, isn't it? It's like pretty scary stuff when you think about moving into the light. I can see myself at the moment as I'm talking to you as a kind of a, little caterpillar that's been sitting there hiding and hoping no one notices my, my shame or my story or whatever it is, or my dramas or my stresses. And then you sort of go, well, you know what? I'm a bit tired of being a caterpillar now. I think I'm ready for, and then they get led to you, people just, when the student's ready, the teacher comes, right? And then you sort of made that decision, oh, little caterpillar, I'm going to come into the light, and you sort of have a peek around. It's like, oh my God, how overwhelming is this? Do you find that, is that the stage where your clients find it the most challenging, or where would you say, what season would you feel your clients find it the most confronting or challenging?
It actually differs. It depends on the situation. So some clients, they shared and then they get to winter and they go, oh, I'm not sure, because I don't know who I am anymore. There's that loss of identity. And also it's like, I don't know what I really want. What do I really want? And so it's that whole realization that they have control over what comes next. And that can be quite overwhelming for a lot of women that I work with.
Yeah.
The other thing, the goals, and then it's like, oh, but I don't want people, I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to set boundaries because I feel really nervous about that and I feel guilty about. So then they sort of go, yeah, I want to do this, but then we're going to integrate it. It's like, oh no, I don't really want to be that different person. I don't know. I feel a bit scared about dipping my toe in the water there. So it's really interesting. Different stages, definitely. Look, I think the first stage is always, for me, the awakening, the eye-opener to go, oh my gosh, I've been living with these patterns and stories and all this conditioning. I didn't know. I didn't know why I kept saying yes to things that I didn't really want to. And, and just when you realize that you can change the way your thoughts and feelings are processed, is such a powerful thing. A lot of women find that very overwhelming as well, to recognize that they do actually have control of their own lives.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person
Absolutely.
just because you can step up and say, you know what? No, thank you, but no, that's not really, that doesn't resonate with me anymore. And I guess after that sort of first season of like having the courage to step forward and go, look, something's not right, I want to change this, and then realizing after working with you that they can change, then you've got the hope steps in. The hope comes in and says, oh my God, this is possible. And then, so you take that next step and then it's like, uh-oh, now I have to do this and this, or now I'm challenging myself to do this and this. But the journey is profound, isn't it? And it really is like the caterpillar to the butterfly, isn't it, in a way? It's really that whole, and like snakes, I talk a lot, I use animals a lot because that's my work. But, the snakes, when they shed, they can't grow into their skin. They've got no choice but to shed. And when they shed, they burn. So you can't touch them for 6 weeks or so because it's a painful burn to touch them. And it's a bit like us. We can't really grow we can't take our baggage and our stuff with us because we're not really growing that way, are we? We have to shed, don't we? We have to let go. But you know what? You were talking about your own experiences as well. And I know that your life is kind of rooted in the professional training, but also in your lived experience, your burnout, your divorce, your single motherhood and the breast diagnosis. We've kind of touched on it a bit, but it's more been about other people. How did those chapters sort of reshape your understanding of your own resilience and your self-worth? Big question.
Yeah, it's a big question. I separated 5 years ago. Like my divorce, separated from my partner, my husband 5 years ago. I still feel that I am building towards that self-worth piece.
Wow.
I still have moments where I have doubts and so, and we all do, and, I work, I live, I breathe this stuff. But, there are still moments where I have self-doubt and, especially when you've got your own business and, you're taking that leap. And also you're really fully responsible for 2 young human beings. So there's always that questioning, is this the right decision for them and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, to be honest, my divorce was probably hit me harder. At the time, I was very positive and like you said earlier, like, I know this is the right decision. I feel free. But then I think it was probably after my dad passed away, I was kept suppressing emotions and I wanted to be strong for my kids and my family. It was probably a couple of years later that it actually just hit me like, I'm not going to be living this life that I had thought for the last 20 years with this person. And when my children face challenges or I could see them, split between households and really starting to stress out and not having routine, you do have that, oh my gosh, did I make the right decision? So I do understand why women stay, absolutely. But I did go through those stages myself and, we call them seasons where straight after my divorce, I felt really powerful and strong and confident. But then that started to dip. And I realized that because I hadn't really dealt with the emotions and the feelings that had come from my marriage failing. And I was shattered, but I just kept suppressing that going, no, but I know it's the right decision and I'm going to be fine and I'm going to be good. But a marriage breakdown can be very devastating, especially when you've got children, when you actually really love that person, but you just can't make it work. It's actually quite devastating. And so I think for, especially in the program, a lot of that introspection and that winter stage is that reflection piece. You can shed, but then there's that extra layer. There's that extra layer that we try and get to that, women are great at suppressing feelings because they want to be strong and they want to be there for everyone else. So we're really good at pushing through and we're really good at keep going. But there will come times where it just hits you like a ton of bricks and you realize, wow, I still got some layers that I need to be working through. So, I think my divorce, lost my dad, I suppressed a lot of those emotions. And then when work was really, really, really busy, a lot of that just came to the surface, unexpectedly. And that's probably that's what led to my burnout. Because of that, I was overthinking past, the future, and just that constant rumination was just debilitating for me, which led to that burnout. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what else is interesting? I find how the body responds, different parts of the body respond. And women, I believe women are more prone to breast cancer, which is kind of interesting because that's the nurturer. That's the nurturer. That's the feeder. And I often think to myself, I wonder if we've gone in our lives to this point of caring and nurturing everybody else first instead of ourselves. And I often wonder if that's associated with why the statistics are so high of breast cancer. There are others, but it's just so predominant in women, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There's a book. I have it here, which is one of the most amazing books, with The Secret Language of the Body by Ina
Oh, wow.
Segal.
Oh, yep.
And when I was doing the somatic work, my healer, want of a
Mm.
better word, she said, what breast is it? And I said, it's my left breast. I've got breast cancer in my left breast. And I've actually got it on my wall here, and it said left breast, difficulty connecting to your own femininity and receiving love, affection and kindness. Feeling like you don't need help from others because you can take
Wow.
care of everything yourself, overburdening yourself with responsibilities and then pushing yourself beyond your limits and feeling anxious and exhausted, not having any clear boundaries, holding on to rejection, shame, disappointment, insecurity and fear, always worrying about everyone and everything,
Oh,
deep
my
need to
God.
be liked and to please others, deep fear of loss, regret about the choices you have made, living in the past and wishing things were different. Now,
Oh,
this
my
was after
God.
my divorce, yeah, and I just broke down in tears, and she said, that's your breast cancer.
And how many women is that? How many women does
Yeah,
that describe?
and the right breast is quite similar, a little bit different nuances, but, and I use this book nearly every day with my clients, because when we do a body scan and we connect to our bodies and my clients connect to their bodies, they might say, oh, my left shoulder or my right jaw, or the other day was an ear, which was so random,
Mm.
and I'd look it up. I look it up while there, and I talk them through, and this book is amazing. It's got some really great passages around how you can sort of work through it.
Mm.
But nearly everything that I read in that book with my clients, I go, that's exactly what happened to me this week, or this is what's been, and it's quite different for different parts of the body. So we hold it here. We hold it here, and the
Yes.
body keeps the score. Absolutely. The body knows. The
Yeah,
body
it
keeps the
does.
score. Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Late last year, my husband had a broken snapped sternum. He snapped his sternum in a vehicle accident, and I was at the hospital, and, the doctors were trying to speak to me in doctor language, which is almost like chicken scrawl, only verbal. And for 3 or 4 days, first time it had ever happened to me, and I hope it doesn't again, but I couldn't get food or water past my throat. I kept bringing it up. It got to, I think that's the pharynx or the larynx or something right there,
Mhm.
where if you can't breathe, they put a little hole in there, and yeah. I brought everything up for 4 days, and I thought, what the heck? And then I realized when I was talking to the doctors, they were talking at me, not to me, and I couldn't express. I couldn't verbalize. I wanted to say, hey, dude, can you please tell me what this means in English? I don't speak doctor. Tell me what it means in English. And it's interesting that when he came out of all of this and he came home and things settled down, it stopped. It stopped because I could verbalize what I was feeling with my husband and ask him what he was feeling, that I could understand. And even something like that is really interesting to me. So imagine in life all this trauma that is held in the body.
Mm.
If we can recognize that and work with that, I don't know if if it can be a prevention to breast cancer, if you're aware of it before the fact.
Mhm.
I don't know, but this work that you do could very well possibly be just that, if women
Yeah,
can understand.
I truly believe
Yeah,
that we have the power
yeah, I do
to
too.
prevent illness and disease.
Yeah.
And obviously that's part of it is really connecting with your body and that in going
Mm,
within and that intuition
mm,
and following, like the gut
mm.
feeling. Everything's in the body.
Yeah,
Everything we do. And it's just going within, connecting and honoring it,
yeah,
honoring your needs.
yeah,
And it look, things will still come up, absolutely, but it's just learning how to work with what comes up. And so many ailments, a lot of women going through perimenopause and menopause. I honestly do believe that they can really support themselves and their symptoms by just going within and honoring their needs.
yeah,
Because a lot of the symptoms, I think, it's their body crying out for whatever it is it's missing,
yeah,
boundaries, rest, support, nutrition, sleep, whatever it is.
yeah.
I just think our body tells us a lot, but we just don't take the time to listen.
Our
Mm.
cells are intelligent, aren't they? And we're made of what? Is it 80% of water or something? And if we look at Dr. Emoto's work with water, the intelligence held within a molecule of water, and our bodies are made up of that. So I'm with you. I believe that we can tell our bodies, and of course, some of these masters in the Eastern world have got that down pat. They communicate and they speak with their body, the cells of their body. It's very powerful stuff. So I want to ask you though, for women who are listening to this, for women who might feel exhausted or disconnected from themselves, and they don't really know where to begin, what's the very first gentle, practical step that you would offer to start reclaiming your energy and your self-trust? Obviously, coming and working with you is the smart move to make, but if someone's not sure whether they're ready for that yet, what would you say? Where do we begin?
I think you mentioned it earlier about journaling. I had never journaled, and I thought it was a little bit not woo-ha, but I just didn't actually have time to journal. I thought I had it all sorted in. I knew what I was. I had it all sorted, and it wasn't until I started journaling that I realized that I had nothing sorted, and I actually had really no idea what I was feeling or my emotions. So, one of the first things I work with my clients on is making sure you can carve out some time for you. Number one. And get into the practice of writing down what you're feeling and your emotions, because you learn a lot from that. You see patterns, you start recognizing the negative self-talk or the thoughts. So certainly journaling is a really big one. Just if it's 5 minutes a day, what are you feeling? Where are you feeling stuck? The emotions, what thoughts are coming through your mind, all those types of things. So journaling's that self-awareness piece. And for me, that's the foundation of the work that we do, the transformation fundamentals. But also the energy mapping that I do is also just identifying the energy drains. And this can be really, really simple. So, let's just say we start with 100% battery, just think of a phone. And then you've got things similar to a phone, apps in the background, just draining energy. And you don't necessarily even know or recognize what that is. And it could be overthinking. It could be saying yes to something that you actually wanted to say no to. It could be scrolling on your phone. It could be having that third or fourth cup of coffee instead of a glass of water. So it's just switching those small little energy drains and trying to replace them with energy givers. So having that glass of water, eating that healthy meal, instead of scrolling, go for a walk or journal or read a book or something like that. So it's just that flipping the drainer with the giver. And it's just being aware of the drains, the subconscious drains that can just really wear you out.
Okay, so before we wind up, I want to go through some of the ways that people can get a hold of you. First of all, your website, which is achangeofseasons.com.au. Make sure you put the AU on the end. Facebook.
It's A Change of Seasons.
A Change of Seasons.
On Instagram, Facebook, and also LinkedIn.
Good. Okay, so everyone can find you there. I always ask my guests this one question before we go, and you can take as long as you want to have a think about it. But if you were to share your one message with the world, what would it be?
You are the main actor in this play called life, or this movie. You have control. So take that control and make it beautiful.
I love that. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And if you're listening to our conversation and you feel that you could do with some not only professional but sincere assistance to work through very difficult time in your life, or you just want to change some things up. Nicole's the expert, not me. So make sure that you reach out to her. And I'm pretty sure, in fact, I'm positive that her Change of Seasons will be life-changing for you. Thank you for your time today, Nicole. I've loved every moment. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lisa. I really appreciate it.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you so much for being here and tuning into Enlightened Connections. I truly hope today's episode offered you something to reflect on, expand into, or feel more deeply connected to, whether within yourself or with the animals and spirit world around you. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow or subscribe to the show and share it with someone you feel may benefit from it as well. It's one of the most supportive ways you can help this podcast reach more hearts, more homes, and more animal lovers. And if you'd like to stay connected in between episodes, come join me inside the Enlightened Connections podcast Facebook community. I'd absolutely love to have you there. Until next time, take gentle care, stay connected, and trust the whispers.